The world is taught at a very young age that there is a supreme being that watches us from above. A supreme being, a deity, a God. And no matter your beliefs, this understanding is as perennial as the stars. Then again, ask yourself, if you were God or a supreme being and you wanted to keep a close eye on your creation, where would you hide your place of observation? If you say the perfect hiding place of God is the moon, you would be wrong. The moon would be a perfect vantage point to watch the ways of man, and yet eventually, with time, man would be able to reach it. If you then say Mars would be the perfect place for the eyes of God, it too, with time, is also attainable. You can say Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, and even Venus, and you would also be wrong, because we will in time be able to reach all of these places. And yet there is one place that is perfect for the house of God and His eyes, a place that mankind, even with its technology, could never reach. The sun. It is a place that enlivens our world and gives light to our eyes, and yet the thought of going near it sends fear through our minds. And yet the scalding fires and the burning temperatures create the perfect hiding place for a kingdom, for a God, because it is a place that even with technology, we believe we could never reach it, unless we were invited. No matter what we see in our world, and no matter our gains and our achievements, we will all come to learn an ultimate truth, and that is, we are not unique. We are not special, and we are no better than any humans who ever came before us. Although we can peer into the heavens and walk upon the face of the moon, we are still not unique. Our writings, our inventions, and even our lords and gods are not any different from what they had before us. There have been more than 30,000 versions of this earth, and all of them were just like ours. They too have created technology, and they too have walked upon the face of the moon, and yet they also walked on Mars, Pluto, and Ceres. And yet Mars, Pluto, and Ceres tell us that they have walked on them too. Every human that walks upon this earth walks the same path as those who came before them. From cave to stone, and from wood to science, it's always the same. The gestation period of man is always the same. And no matter how many times human beings walk on this earth, it always ends exactly the same. Every world is the same because every civilization is the same. And yet, ours is the only exception. What makes us different is the fact that we have found clues and we have finally understood the clues. And the clues tell us how the world ends. And yet, even with our clues, we pale in comparison. The others walked on Mars and Pluto. They also entered into the sun and returned. They have created worlds and planets. And they also learned how to do something that we can't even fathom. They learned how to live for 50,000 years. And with all our superiority and knowledge, our version of Earth has a dubious distinction, an achievement that they never had. And what makes us so different is the fact that we are the first human beings to walk upon this earth who has figured out how to kill it. Why are we here? What is our purpose? And what happens when the earth dies? These are the most important questions ever asked by mankind. And to date, we've never found the answers. And that is, until now. All that follows is the most powerful knowledge ever heard on planet Earth. It is a God knowledge that is called the All. And it is only revealed in the end. And the reason why is because this knowledge is devastating. We cannot move forward into our new world and our new knowledge until we shed our archaic and childish beliefs. The believer of faith in our world is said to be a fool, and they who call them fools are they who are born of science. Science is the father of the rational law that determines what is true in our world and what is utter nonsense. Glaringly, science always looks down its nose upon the religious and the faithful. Why? Because they have no proof for their beliefs, and no proof means it doesn't exist. Nevertheless, our world is now changing, and the religious have endured. And in our world, they now have prevailed. They've grown stronger, bolder, and wiser, and they now look down their nose at what used to be called science. What in the world has happened? And how did the empirical study of science become the new jester of a fool? The reason is here. This two-dimensional object is the Earth. And as you can see, it is a flat Earth. A vision of our planet through the eyes of our new science and our new way of thinking. And yet, there is something lacking here. Knowledge. The belief in a flat Earth is gaining in popularity, and there are now countless books, websites, and research to bolster the propagation of this new pseudoscience. They say the Earth is flat and always has been, and the sun merely moves across this flat disk. The flat earther speaks with authority and superiority, and yet while they are still speaking, they of religion and faith are laughing uncontrollably. The reason for this laughter is because, even with science, this new theory lacks credibility. Firstly, flat Earth is basically an epistemological argument, in that it is based on a theory, surprisingly, of knowledge itself. The theory of a flat Earth is not based entirely on science. It's just part science, part belief, part supposition, and mostly personal justification. If I believe it, then it must be true. Apart from the fact that we can clearly see a round Earth from the moon and from our satellites, we also see evidence that by all measures ends this argument. It's clearly a sphere. If we believe it is an optical illusion, we can literally measure the circumference of the Earth from the Earth. And unbelievably, this was accomplished by the Greeks more than 2,000 years ago. And knowing this shows us something very disturbing, and that is, we are getting dumber. The last time people said the Earth was flat was more than 500 years ago. And 500 years later, a population born with great science and technology digresses to a time when we were all near to illiteracy. And yet, there is one voice that will end this debate, a voice that is higher than our religion, higher than our knowledge of God, and higher than our science. It is the highest voice ever heard on earth, and its rulings are indisputable and ultimately final. For the voice of all voices is the voice of the universe. The universe tells us what is and what is not. It tells us what can and what cannot be. The rulings of the universe are indisputable, and its judgments are final. This is a flat earth, and this, and this. And yet, all of them seem to be missing something. Reality. Earth's weight and diameter is the 5th largest planet in our solar system. A flattened Earth with this weight would essentially be a flat disk in space. A flat disk in space at the volume of the Earth would be an Earth of only 2 dimensions. A 2-dimensional flat Earth would be very different from what we see today. A flat Earth would have no depth perception, and we wouldn't be able to see or gauge distance. A 2-dimensional flat Earth would not be able to produce an apple or an orange or a grape. Why? Because each of these objects requires a 3rd dimension. Buildings, skyscrapers, skylines, and even a simple box all require depth and height, all of which would not exist in a 2-dimensional Earth. The universe also tells us something else. It tells us where we are in the cosmos, and where we are supports a 3-dimensional space. Our sun, our moon, and all of the planets revolve in this space, and the law of the universe states that a 2-dimensional flat Earth does not exist. The universe rules that a flat circular disk cannot exist. Why? Because any flat 2-dimensional circle, when placed in a 3-dimensional universe, becomes a sphere, a globe, the Earth. We must do away with our beliefs and walk into the light of knowledge, and now more than ever, because there is something coming, and we don't have time to waste on this. Our version of Earth began around 5000 BC, and although we believe our civilization to be unique, sadly, it is not. Our civilization begins with the story of man and how we came to be, and in nearly every ancient culture, there is a story of a flood, a war, and a tree. The Garden of Eden is the birthplace of mankind, and it is in this place where God created his first man. The religious believe this word with fervor, and the archaeologist confirms it with each new discovery. They tell us of the land of Eden, and it is found in ancient Persia, or modern-day Iran. A land of creation, a land of God, and also the land of the tree of knowledge, a tree that tempted Adam to disobey God, and thus created the fall of mankind. This story is recounted all over the earth, and it has been more than 4,000 years. And yet this religious tale is meant only for the religious. For those of us who are given to reason, to knowledge, and to science, we find this to be a dish of which we will not partake. For this tale is prepared by the hands of men. Although the academic dismisses these tales of faith as fantasy, there is another tale that speaks the same words, and yet it is full of awe-inspiring power. Because although humanity tells a tale of the Garden of Eden and the Tree of Life, they will find that they are unaware of a greater truth, and that is that there are two of them. There is another garden and another tree of life, only this holy garden isn't found on a plain of Iranian desert. No, this holy creation of God is found where it should be, in the heavens. And the writer of this tale is greater than any other. This writer is so great, he outlives man and his gods, and his work has stood for more than 10,000 years, and he is still alive today. For he who gives us this holy knowledge is standing here. This is the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and it is from this structure where we find the knowledge of the Tree of Life. And although we believe our faiths and our religions are unique, you will find in time that they are not. They are exactly like all the other religions that came before us, and sadly, they are all a part of what kills us. In every religion around the world, there is a custom, a sacrament, and a holiness that is emulated all over the world. And that is the covering of the head. A covering of the head is a sign of holiness in nearly every religion in the world. It is practiced and preached, and yet no one has considered its origins. An origin which will lead us back to a very familiar place: Egypt. The covering of the head and its holiness has its roots here. The covering of the head was so important to the Egyptians that they even covered their heads after death. Unlike our world's religions of today, a covering of cloth or fine linen would not be tolerated in the house of God. The difference between their covering and ours is the fact that their covering was layered with holy and blessed knowledge. Upon the heads of every king and queen was a covering of sacred knowledge. Each trinket, each drawing, and each symbol represented a knowledge that only God knew. Look upon the faces of these queens and these kings, and know that every symbol upon their heads holds the knowledge of God, and this knowledge alone makes it holy. The Egyptians gave honor to God and also the sun. The sun was the light of the world and also the gateway to heaven. Looking upon these ancient kings and queens, we still can't see the holiness, and we can't see it because we are not holy. A covering of the head must always be clothed with sacred and blessed words. It is what makes the covering holy. And yet to our world, this holiness has been given. Stand still and see the holiness of the ancient God. Look closely and remember the knowledge. We now know what they knew of the cosmos, and that is, the sun is heavy, and a heavy sun bends space, and bends it so much that it sits within a hole. This is the reason we're really only seeing half of it. And yet we also know that a heavy sun can bend space so much that it falls all the way through and can also create a wormhole. And although this knowledge finds you with no cost, to the ancients, this knowledge was invaluable. What you have just seen, what you have just witnessed, has guaranteed you riches and blessings in the heavens and the afterlife. All of this knowledge comes from they who came before us, and their word speaks of the house of God and the tree of life, a tree we never knew existed. The pyramid tells us it is found in the cosmos, in a place where it is said that mankind was created. The pyramid takes us to the house of God and to the tree of life. It is holy and hallowed knowledge, and this knowledge has not been spoken on this planet for more than 7,000 years. The reason its secrets have remained hidden for so long is because human beings were not bright enough to decipher its code. Then again, this code was not written in a human language, and instead it was written in an alien language. An alien language that is somehow connected to our ancient past and also to our creation. Alien intelligence is nothing more than enlightenment, an opening of the mind, and ascendance to a higher state of being. And although this knowledge comes to us from the land of Egypt, there is an ancient confirmation of this truth in the most unlikely place you could ever imagine: the United States of America. The universe is a multiverse with varying dimensions, and it is teeming with endless possibilities. The universe also holds the key to every question we have ever had about life and the afterlife. Within the universe is the origin of man, the origin of life, and the origin of God. And yet to understand the universe is to become one with it. And this is not easy to do, especially for a human. The cosmos speaks with wisdom, for it is an intelligent design, and thus its words will not be like ours, and instead its words will be alien. And although we have seen UFO videos for years, we still are unable to receive its message. UFOs that are clearly entering and exiting the sun. What they are doing is showing us it is possible. And they're also showing us something else: their language. They have been here before, and they have left clues for us to find, and they have left them all over the world. Clues that will lead us to an inevitability that we cannot escape: the end of the world. Yet and still, this dire forecast has a silver lining, a message written in the universal language, a language we must learn. The world teaches that the universal language is music, and as beautiful as this thought may be, it is not true. The scientists will teach the world that the universal language is mathematics, another beautiful equation that is also not true. Mathematics is merely another branch of human education, and it is no more suited to understanding the alien than the pianist. The mathematician sees the wonder of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and with mathematics, he sets out to reveal the purpose of its creation. He will count the stones, measure the heights, weigh, divide, calculate, and subtract. He will obtain the mean, the angle, the footage, the pi, and the circumference. And when he is finished, he will walk away bewildered and scratching his head. He will leave it knowing no more than he did when he came to it. Our alien visitors are well aware of our human limitations, and as such, they purposely left enigmas and creations all over the world which will unlock the knowledge of the universe, and also unlock this strange language. This object is left to us by the Mayans, and as one can clearly see, it is alien. And yet, if one looks closer, one will see an alien message, an alien code, an alien language. This alien artifact was found within the Mayan pyramid, and it is clearly an alien creation. But within this creation is the first step in unlocking that which we need most, a Rosetta Stone, a tool that can unlock this language. When one looks upon this alien face, one quickly dismisses it as an alien relic and nothing more. And yet, each object on this relic is carrying a coded message. The first message is its eyes, alien. Its pronounced appearance is to ensure that we understand who this knowledge comes from. Beneath this face is the next clue, as there are 3 pyramids, and each is slightly larger than the other. This clue is telling us that there are 3 pyramids of significance, a large pyramid, a medium-sized pyramid, and a smaller one. Unbelievably, we find this mystery isn't really, for it is here. This is the Giza Plateau, and these are the 3 alien pyramids which were created for man. On the right side of this figure, there are 2 identical sets of pyramids, and although you only see 2 sets of 2, you would be wrong, because this circular object here is not just a circular object. This is also a sun, a stargate, a pyramid of the sun. How do we know this? Because all pyramids are created for the sun, and this round object is the sun, and the sun is a gateway. A square-based pyramid always represents a round sun. This knowledge is confirmed here by this large pyramid that is near to this circle, and it is telling us that this circle represents the sun. Each of these symbols can only truly be identified with the help of flight. Flying above the earth, one can see each of these symbols, and one can see how they line up, and they each line up as an exact replica of the star constellation of Orion. Orion is a star constellation, and Orion is also a name. Orion also represents the home of these alien builders. And yet, this knowledge is not confined to the stonework of our ancient aliens. This knowledge also has been passed down to us by the creation of valleys, hills, and mounds of earth. Every megalithic earth mound or carving is created by these aliens in order to teach us their language. A language that one must remember is in fact the universal language. We know that these symbols are Mayan and also Egyptian, and this is deliberate in order to show us that these aliens created both of these civilizations. And to punctuate this claim of ownership, these beings left us an unmistakable message. This symbol here looks like a stair step. It is found on both sides of this relic, on the left and the right, and it is here for only one purpose. This symbol means authority and ownership of both lands and both continents. They ruled Africa and the Americas. And this symbol, believe it or not, is found throughout the land of Egypt. And it means the throne, the king. And these identifying alien hieroglyphics means that these kingdoms and this earth is ours. This alien code has been sleeping for over 1,000 years, and not one of us on Earth has been able to unlock its meaning. A meaning that clearly shows us we have an alien father, a father that comes from the stars. And yet, there is one last piece of this puzzle which will stagger you. This alien code looks to be identical on both sides, and yet it is not. The right side shows the pyramids of the Aztecs and the Egyptians, and its connections to the Stargate. These two large circular objects represent the sun, and they are round, and yet they are represented by pyramids. The glory is here. This winding and curling object on the left is connected to the sun circle as well. Nevertheless, it is not Egyptian or Aztec, and neither is it found in the land of the Maya. This object is very far away, and when you find it, it will leave you speechless. On the left side of this codex, you will see a winding and curling design that is also attached to the sun. This too represents their land and their rule, as they also ruled this land in our ancient past, and this land will also determine our future. It is a land that has more UFO activity than anywhere else on this earth, and the land of their rule is the United States of America. And the origin of this swirling snake and Stargate is found here. This is Peebles, Ohio, and this is the place of the Serpent Mound. It is a serpent that can only be understood when seen from above, and once you see it, you'll see it is a serpent devouring what looks like an egg. And yet once inside the serpent's mouth, you see the answer. And the answer is the image of a pyramid. The serpent devours this egg with the mouth of a pyramid. These two symbols are here to show us something that no human being on earth has ever understood. And that is this. This is the serpent and the sun. And although the religious around the world are taught that the serpent means the devil, it does not. We now know that the winged serpent is nothing more than an airplane. And we have all come to know that this serpent is actually the serpent of the sun. These two objects are always together, and they are bonded for one reason. It is an alien word, and it is part of their language. This is a worm, and to understand it requires virtually no intellect at all. And this, on the other hand, is a serpent or a snake. And when you see them side by side, you will find that they look similar and yet distinctly different. They move exactly the same, and yet the worm is smaller and the snake is longer. Understanding this small distinction is what opens our minds and opens a language. If one had only a few moments of life left, and one wanted to travel to the other side of the earth, or to Mars or to Pluto, one would open this worm. For the worm would create what we call a wormhole. Through this wormhole, we could travel to our nearest planet or our nearest moon or the other side of the earth. However, if instead you choose to enter into the body of the serpent or the snake, you will travel hundreds and millions of light years away, clear across the known and unknown universe. The worm is for short distance, and the serpent or snake is for long distances. This is why the Serpent Mound was created. It tells us what we need to know in order to achieve it. Look again at the Serpent Mound and know it is devouring a pyramid. And a pyramid is the sun. This is one of the most misunderstood and misinterpreted hieroglyphics in all of Egypt. Humanity has been looking at this symbol for thousands of years, and not one of us has gotten it right. The serpent is found in the cosmos, moving in and out of existence. The serpent finds the sun, sees it, and then devours it. Then what you find is this: the sun in the belly of the serpent, creating a corridor of bent space. And this happens because the sun is a gateway, and it is merely the opening of a stargate. Once you enter into the mouth of the serpent, you enter into the sun, and not into a wormhole, but instead into the serpent's belly. And because of its length, it will take you clear across the known universe in the blink of an eye. Which brings us back to our alien father. Notice that each side of this artifact looks the same, and they are each bonded by the symbol of the sun. The right side reflects the pyramids of North America and the Egyptians, and also its connections to the Stargate. Nevertheless, it is the left side which holds the most powerful knowledge of all, because it too shows an entry into the Stargate. But what is so amazing about this knowledge is the fact a serpent not found coiling within the cosmos. No, this serpent is made of earth. A mound of earth. And this message is telling us that there is another Stargate. And this one is buried right here on Earth. It is buried under a mound of dirt, and its value is immeasurable. In order to confirm this conception, all one has to do is revisit one of the world's greatest mysteries, the glorification of the Eucharist. It is more than 600 years old, and yet it contains a secret that we are all waiting to hear. A Stargate is always seen as a semicircle, an ancient device that leaves very little to the imagination. And yet this large semicircular construction is immediately understood all around the world as a Stargate. No one has ever seen this gate, and no one knows why it is never a full circle, and yet it is found throughout all of human history. Then again, there is a great clue that has been staring us in the face for more than 5,000 years. The Great Pyramid of Egypt. It tells us of the Stargate, and it tells us how to travel through the cosmos. And it tells us this for one reason. It is a clue. A pyramid and the Stargate are one. A pyramid is created with one purpose in mind: perfection. Its height, its weight, and its form are all clues, and both are found here. Look closer. It is the symbol of the Stargate, the origin of its semicircular design. And yet what makes it a semicircle is the fact that there is something blocking its view. A pyramid. And that is the clue. The religious see a religious artifact, and yet its light reveals that it is clearly something else. Notice it is outlined with an uneven covering, a covering in the shape of a pyramid, a special pyramid, because what makes this pyramid unique is its uneven design. A lumpy, clumpy, and irregular pyramid unlike the perfection of the others. Why? The reason is because this is not the outline of a stone pyramid. This one is made of earth. Yes, this creation represents dirt. Dirt covering a buried pyramid. A pyramid which houses the Stargate. What pyramid do we know of that has not yet been discovered? The first is here. This is China, and there are more than 20 pyramidal structures, and not one of them is made of stone, but instead, they are made of earth. They spread all across our world, Asia, Europe, and in the most inhospitable place of all, the Antarctic. If these clues are correct, one of them contains the Stargate. If we can walk away from the theory that the mathematician is the height of our intelligence, we could then speak the universal language and then become a part of the universe. We must understand this language, and we must understand it quickly, as our Earth is coming to an end. Our alien fathers have left us a detailed blueprint of what to do when the Earth comes to an end. It is a codex that is sealed with a time code, meaning it will not be understood until a certain time period has passed. And there is one place on Earth that typifies this more than any other: Nazca, Peru. This is one of the world's greatest mysteries, and it has defied the brilliance of mankind since antiquity. They are called the Nazca Lines, and they are more than 1,000 years old. A series of strange geoglyphs that beg the great minds of our world to do the impossible, and that is to solve it. These mysterious and dusted markings have remained one of our greatest mysteries of all time since we began keeping records. For over 1,000 years, mankind has measured, counted, and even prayed for an answer. And to all of our dismay, not one answer has ever come forth. That is, until now. The knowledge that is hidden in all of our pyramids, hieroglyphs, petroglyphs, and geoglyphs is a knowledge that has been written for more than 100 million years. It is literally a knowledge of forever. And when one understands the purpose of life and the purpose of man, one can see forever. And once you see it, you will understand it all. These lines are a warning, a shout, and a precursor to what is to come. The end. These strange figures have never been opened, and their words have never been spoken. And yet, once you hear them, you will understand. And once you understand, you'll find this knowledge will not be comforting. The Nazca lines stretch all across the desert with pictures of animals, signs, and strange intersecting lines. What does it mean? And what is its purpose? These lines were created by a civilization that is now extinct. But unlike our world, they did everything they could to leave something for the new humans who come to this planet. They made these lines for us. In order to understand these lines of animals, one must do something that is counterintuitive to intelligence, and that is to ignore them. Don't look for the obvious, and instead look for what is out of place. And one object that catches everyone's eye is this. It's strange and alien in appearance. What could it possibly mean? This, children of men, is a clock. It is a clock that tells us a time has come, and it also tells us what to do. When looking at this object, one will see a square that is nearly identical to every pyramid that is created on this earth. And knowing this opens the entire plateau. A pyramid is always created for the sun, and this is no different. It is a circle squared, which means it is an object that turns. Within this object are 16 points of navigation, the 17th being the center. From the center, we count 3 spiral rings, with each ring represent a circular orbit around this object. The 3 objects are Mercury, Venus, and Earth. Yes, children of Earth, this great secret is actually the sun. As with crop circles, aliens always use creative geometry when outlining the sun. Always creative and always geometric. And it's for a reason that is astonishing. Nonetheless, to confirm that this is in fact the sun that enlightens our earth, all one has to do is look in the 4 corners of the sun. Within the first square is another square, and it is turned, and a turned square indicates motion. And this means that this object rotates. In each corner there are 3 blocks, and the 3 blocks represents months. 3 blocks in 4 corners equals 12, and 12 are the number of months it takes for the Earth to orbit the sun. The universal language is star constellation. Although the mathematician is our highest level of intelligence, what we believe, all it requires is basic counting, basic addition and subtraction. Knowing this alone opens all the geoglyphs in Peru, and the world's greatest mystery is no longer a mystery. For today, it is now a part of our human story. A sun symbol has 16 cardinal points of direction, and knowing this leads to an understanding that everything on this plane is a location or a destination. The first symbol we find is of a small bird, a bird that is created to represent flight. Each glyph has a code, and the code is the destination, and the language is universal, which to all of us is alien. This large strip of land has no meaning to our ancestors, but it does to us. It is clearly a runway for flight. All of these glyphs also indicate knowledge of flight is necessary in order to unlock this code. This is one of the most well-known creations in Peru. It is another bird, a simple bird, and yet there is a clue that always escapes our world, and the clue is here. It is a bird, and it looks to be a bird, but then think like an alien. Look closer. Look at its feet. Notice that one bird foot has a human hand, and the other does not. Notice that one leg has more bird toes than the other. And that is the clue. This small bird has great significance, and unveiling it will unlock this entire plane. This bird has 9 toes or 9 talons, and it should only have 6. And 9 talons means that this is not a bird. This is a constellation. A human hand on this bird means that this bird is a bird created by man. It is the constellation of Aquila. It is a constellation from the ancient world, and it survives in ours. And how we know this is because these two birds are the same, and they are based on star points in the constellation. 9 bird toes correspond to 9 constellation stars, stars that are necessary to create this man-made bird in the sky. This geoglyph is another bird, and what makes this bird different is the fact that each foot has the exact same number of appendages, which means our clue is found somewhere else, and somewhere else is its wings. These elongated wings are created to draw your attention to the wings. And once it has your attention, one only needs to count each feather, and after counting, you will find that there are 11, which means that this is the constellation of Columbia. A bird of feathers that is also a bird in the cosmos. And yes, if you count the number of stars in the constellation of Columbia, you will find that there are 11, a match to its feathers. Yes, children of Earth, everything on this plane is created for the stars. If this all seems too unbelievable for the mind, with patience, one will see a confirmation of truth that is so overwhelming that it will usher in a new age of interspecies communication. This is a crop circle. It is an alien creation that is left on our Earth for a very important reason, and that is for us to learn. Aliens appear on our Earth primarily for one reason: to teach us. They are telling us we must listen and learn, and we must catch on quickly because our time is running out. Notice this crop circle, and notice this bird is just like the Nazca bird. And also notice the human hand and its 5 fingers at the tail of this bird. It is meant to look similar to a human hand because this bird is man-made. Notice also small planets and small stars surrounding this crop circle. And now ignore the feathers and count only the small dots at the end of each of the feathers. and what you will arrive at are 11. 11 stars and 11 star points. This crop circle is created for us to understand Nazca, Peru. Yes, it is all true. This is alien knowledge, and children of Earth, this is an alien intervention. And all of this is being given to us because no matter how many clues they have written, no matter how many stone pyramids they've created, no matter how many hieroglyphic writings they've written, we just aren't smart enough to put them all together. And for this reason, they are creating these crop circles to help us understand. Crop circles are everywhere, and they contain the same knowledge that is given to us in rock, in books, in clay, and in earth. Something is coming, and the creation of crop circles itself is a clue to what is coming. The age of man is coming to an end. And a new age of enlightenment is beginning. It is time to walk together, time to walk as one, and it is time to know everything. No one has unlocked the knowledge of Nazca, and yet its answers are clearly depicted in alien crop circles. This proves aliens are communicating with us, and they are using star constellations as a way of communication. The problem with our world is the fact that we think we are smarter than they are, and because we think this, we refuse to accept their knowledge or their message as reality. The wisest among us always says, if they're so intelligent, why don't they just come down and talk to us? This proves we are not intelligent. This film is called Contact 2014. It is free to the public and can be viewed on YouTube. It was created in 2014. It is a film that reveals a knowledge that mankind has never known, and that is, UFOs are using star constellations to begin contact with human beings. The film is a repeating message that is based on the film Contact, starring Jodie Foster, a film where Earth receives a repeating message from an alien race, a message that repeats over and over again. And yet, no matter how many times this message is repeated, our human brothers and sisters prove a point that is very depressing. And that is, we are not very intelligent. If you look to the film Contact 2014 on YouTube, just look at the comments on this film. The message board is full of people who believe it's dumb, it's made up, it's crazy, it's stupid. For some reason, our version of mankind, we can't accept wisdom. No matter how many times it's repeated, no matter how many times we hear it, we think it's foolish and a waste of time. The brightest among us must help one another, help them to understand that every world that is ever created comes to know one thing: the end. We have the symbol of the sun, and it is a symbol which indicates direction. There are lines and lines crisscrossing this entire plane, and all of this together means that what we are actually looking at is a map. It's telling us everything we need to know in order to survive. This map was created over 1,000 years ago, when there were no airplanes, and it was created to help us. These glyphs are interdimensional hieroglyphics, and some represent the stars and the cosmos, and others represent land-based locations and also misunderstood relics and objects. Nonetheless, one of the most revealing figures in Nazca is this. It's what most people see as a simple childish drawing of a dog. And yet, it isn't. Look closer and look at its paws. A dog actually has 4 appendages per paw, but this dog only has 3. And that is the clue. Looking at this animal, one can see the strange number of toes per each dog paw. Some have 4, others have 3, and another has 4. If we count only these irregular paws, we come up with 14. But then again, it also has 2 tails, one pointing down, the other pointing up. If we add these extra anomalies as star points, we will come up to 16 star points. And to the dismay of all of our scientific experts, this part of the dog is not a train of urine. It is not an extra leg. This part of this animal is created to show that it is providing a path for another star. It is literally a star way, and that is the extra tail. And the reason why is because this is not just a dog. This is the constellation of Canis. Canis, the dog. And as you can see, the star points line up perfectly. And as well, it shows what this extra leg isn't a leg. It is another corridor which allows for extra stars. And if you count the number of stars in the constellation of Canis, you will find there are 16. It is the enlightenment of our world, and it comes from our alien fathers. And yet there is more. This object has been called a condor. This object has also been called a condor. And although they may appear to be unlike in appearance, they are the exact same bird. And we know this because of the multitude of feathers. These 2 birds have the most star points of any figure on Nazca. And although we call it a condor, we are all incorrect, because both of these are actually the constellation of Cygnus. A heavenly bird, a swan. This heavenly bird is found throughout our entire existence. It is found in every painting, it is found on every wall, and it begins with Sumeria, then Babylonia, also Egypt, the Mayans. It is everywhere. It is a symbol that means it resides over the house of God. Star constellations are always created to tell us a story. And through this story, we come to understand a truth. The glyph of a whale is more than what it seems. It too is a star constellation. Only in the ancient world, it was not called a whale. It was called Cetus. Cetus is the constellation that we should know very well. For Cetus is the constellations that the aliens led us to when they visited Chicago's O'Hare Airport. A UFO for some reason sat over gate C-17 for a number of minutes, and then suddenly shot up into space, creating a hole. We came to understand C-17 is an alien message. And the message is not C-17, but instead New Catalog 17, or NGC 17. It is a constellation in space that is called Cetus. Cetus is today a whale, but to the ancients, it was called the Kraken. It is a monster that comes out of the ocean, and it comes out of the ocean with such force that it creates a flood so great that it destroys the entire world and kills every man on it. This is part of their message and part of their warning. The Nazca lines are telling us to look again at this bird. If we look again to Nazca and the bird, Columbia, we will notice its star points, and you will see that not all of its star points are made from the bird. In fact, the last star points are not made from the bird at all, but instead what is in the bird's mouth. What is in its mouth is an olive branch. And yes, this is a dove. The ancient name for Columbia is Columbia Noachi, and this frightening name means Noah's dove. Yes, this is the same dove that returned to Noah with the same branch after the flood that destroyed the entire world. These ominous warnings indicate an impending doom, and yet, with each scenario, there is a hope in Noah. Because if there is a Noah, it means there will be an ark, and it means some of us will live. All of these symbols and all of these crop circles are leading us to one place. The spider is connected to a pyramid. The monkey is connected to a series of pyramids, and a runway that also is a part of a pyramid. All of this is telling us is that there is knowledge of the stars, and it is found in Egypt, and we must go there and uncover it. They are reaching out to us from the past. And they are opening a door that we have been unworthy of entering. The one thing that we must understand is that star constellations are the universal language, and without knowledge of them, we will never leave this solar system. These beings have shown us a vision of the sun that we could have never imagined. We see it as a ball of light, a creation of warmth, and they see it as a flower. Egypt has shown us that the sun has a hole, and yet Nazca will test our intelligence and also our patience. It is called a strange alien, and yet so is this. This is called the alien astronaut, and although the world teaches these things to our children, it is also our undoing, because this alien astronaut isn't. This is the constellation of Orion. And more than that, it is two geoglyphs laying one upon another. The first is his face. It's not a face. These are two black holes, which together creates a hole in the sun. Yes, this ancient astronaut's face represents the sun. The sun stands in a doorway and invites mankind into the cosmos and to the place of Orion. To confirm this connection, notice that this alien's face looks identical, and he is holding a club in one hand and a star in the other. This also is Orion. And now this, a Hopi Indian petroglyph from the Americas, and this one is from Nazca. Notice their message is exactly the same. The reason is because this is a world message. It is not meant for one tribe or one people. It is meant for every human being on this planet. And the reason is because in order for us to survive, it will take all of us together as one. These are called crop circles, and they have appeared in fields of wheat and grain for decades. And for decades we have all been mystified. What do they mean? Why are they here? And why can't we understand them? Our problem is ourselves, our arrogant nature and dismissive attitudes toward any knowledge that is different from what we believe or different from what we were taught. These crop circles are actually alien communications, and their purpose is to lead us to an understanding that we have not yet achieved. The reason they are helping us is because our earth is dying. Human beings are killing it. And as oblivious as we are, we wistfully walk around completely unaware of the fact that we haven't much time left. The beginning of our intervention is here. This strange object is actually the sun. It has beautiful flowing lines, and the reason for this is because the sun is not what we think it is. It is a flower, a rose, a door that opens only in its season. And in its season, the third planet from the sun comes so close that we can practically fall in it. Of all the humans that have walked this earth and all the civilizations of man, we are the slowest of all, which is why they are helping us. This is the sun. And this is the sun. And what they are showing us is that everything we have been teaching our world about gravity is completely wrong. They are telling us to let it go, and they are showing us how badly informed and how ill-prepared we are. We believe that these are all just beautiful crop circles and beautiful designs. They are all of the sun, and they are all showing us that we must let go of our idea of gravity. It is a childish teaching, a childish notion, and in order to travel in the universe, we must let it go. With crop circles, some information is more important than others. For example, this symbol is Egyptian, and the message is learn, understand, and accept it. This symbol here is literally a key, and it is made to be used in the cosmos. And the most staggering thing about this crop circle is the fact that this priceless object is found right here on Earth. And the human being that found it is walking around with it to this day. He is proud of his find and yet has no understanding that the entire world needs this object. Each crop circle correlates with an object that is found in our histories or that is found on this earth. And what they are telling us is, find it and learn it. One of the messages that they create over and over and over is the sun, the pyramid, and this insect, the scarab. These symbols appear to be paramount among their civilization because they keep creating this message over and over again. We cannot move forward without understanding the importance of Egypt and this insect called the scarab. And for some, to uncover this knowledge will be very, very difficult to accept. However, this knowledge must be uncovered and mankind must come to know that it is true, because how we react to this knowledge will determine if they will ever help us again. The pyramids that are created all over the world, on every single continent, reveal something startling, something that should give us pause. And what is startling about every pyramid on this earth that is created is the fact that the stonework is identical. The stonework of the pyramids are identical because one group of aliens created all of them. One alien rule, one alien law. Nonetheless, to understand these aliens is not enough, because to know them is truly worth more. Alien fingerprints are found upon every continent and on every ancient pyramid. Technological knowledge of the sun and the Stargate is everywhere, and in a time when man could barely write. There is one question that has plagued mankind more than any other, and it is universal. And the question is, who built the pyramids? Where do they come from? Who are they? And what do they look like? It has been a mystery for more than 15,000 years. And uncovering this mystery will be very, very uncomfortable for all of us. The unveiling of this mystery begins here, Africa, and here, the Americas, and all over the entire world. And yet, its end is here, the house of the Mayans. Each represents a beginning and an end of alien rule on Earth. Egypt, the beginning of our civilization, and the Mayans represents the ending of the last great civilization. This Mayan codex tells us who these aliens were. Notice his face, his eyes, and to all of us, he looks alien. As we have seen these images of our alien visitors, we have seen these large alien eyes. Nevertheless, to understand alien communication is to understand that everything they do in the presence of human eyes is for our learning and our intellectual growth. The ancient description of these aliens are much like they are today, with one exception. They didn't call them the Greys. They called them the Ant People. They had large bulb heads with alien eyes that look exactly like an ant. And like an ant, these stone workers created a civilization underground, much like an ant colony. The world has seen pictures of these aliens all over our world, and what always gives them away are their insect-like antennae. In every part of our world, we find them. And in every part of our world, they are called aliens. Their insect-like images are painted everywhere, and with a higher frequency in North and South America. The Hopi Indians tell never-ending tales of these visitors to our earth. But to truly understand them, one must leave North America and return to the other kingdom of their rule, Egypt. In this kingdom, one will find that these beings ruled as kings, and they also sat upon a throne. Their names and their insect appearance are found in the registry of kings. The Egyptians called them the scarab, and they were the master builders of the nations. Egypt lifted them up and glorified them as gods, and also the sons of God. They placed them above even their highest gods, and they worshiped them even long after their departure. However, in the Americas, these scarab kings were not as beloved, for in the land of the Maya, their descendants called these alien kings Mayate. The root word of Mayate is Maya, and Mayate is a derogatory racial slur, and it means an insect of excrement, a dung bug or dung beetle. Sadly, these terms have truth in them, for the Egyptian scarab is in fact a dung beetle, and it does roll dung into a large ball 3 to 4 times its own size. Nevertheless, these alien teachers taught the Mayans the symbolism of the dung beetle, a cosmological understanding of moving worlds and planets to align with the Milky Way. These Mayate, when they left our world, they left us finally understanding what their words truly meant. An insect is not a thing of worship. It has the characteristics of things of worship, and that is what is worshipped. These are scarabs, and this is what they create, a huge spherical ball of dung. And now the creation of our alien kings. And unlike a dung beetle, they do not create a sphere of dung. They create a perfect sphere of solid granite. They are the masters of building, the masters of rock. And like a dung beetle, they leave these spheres all over the world. And you will find that they are spheres of varying types of rock. And they also create spheres of metal. In the ancient past, it is why they were called kings and why they were called gods. They were created with superior technology and superior workmanship. And all of this tells us how they created the pyramids. We have been taught that they used large blocks, ropes, and sleds, and none of this is true. They created our massive pyramids of stone not by lifting the rock, but instead rolling the stone and cutting them in place. They never needed ropes or sleds. The stones literally rolled themselves into place. These insect kings also left another clue of their superiority over ancient man. They told the Mayans they moved worlds and planets. And if one looks past our own solar system, you will find their pyramids on the moon, on Mars, on Pluto, and even Ceres. As bombastic as this may sound, look closely at these spheres. Look, this is Pluto. These pyramid builders stand within a knowledge and a glory that cannot be denied. Although Mayan descendants called them Mayan, the Maya called them by a very different name. They called them Han Hunahpu. And this Mayan name actually means First Father. First Father created all civilizations on the earth. First Father created all nations bearing pyramids. The Mayans called them First Father because they were taught that no matter what race or color a person was born, and no matter what name he calls his father, to all of mankind, they are your first father. According to the Maya, First Father ruled the world from the beginning of time, until one day the devious lords came to the earth, and they were friendly with First Father, and then challenged him to a ball game. First Father accepted the challenge, but when First Father came to play the game, the devious lords captured him and beheaded First Father. The bodies or burial of First Father has never been found, and this Mayan tale would only be a tale. That is, until the mid-1900s, when the Mayan soil gave up the decapitated heads of First Father. This is First Father. These are the faces of our pyramid builders. These are the creators of our ancient text. And these are they who taught us everything about the stars, the cosmos, the planets, and calculation. And yes, these are aliens. They are clearly of African descent, and like all human beings that walk this earth, No matter our race, our color, or ethnic traditions, we can all trace our DNA, our beginnings, to a common ancestor, a father. For no matter what we call our father on this earth, our DNA tells us who our first father is. And he is African. The stonework and its megalithic construction clearly indicates a technical expertise that we do not possess today. The identity of the pyramid builders is the greatest secret of the ancient world. And yet, as unbelievable as this may be, its confirmation is found throughout all of Latin America, even to this day. Because the term Mayate, as derogatory as it may be, is only assigned to black men. These alien men purposely hid their race and their identity from mankind. They went to great lengths to cover their hair and their faces, and in every ancient writing, carving, and in every hieroglyphic, these men were always depicted with a face other than their own. A bird, a dog, a lion, a monkey, or an insect. Nevertheless, they would always leave us clues that only the wise can see. These alien kings were looked down upon because of their appearance, because of their large noses, naughty hair, and big lips. Humans had a hard time accepting them as ruler. And yet in everything they built, they left an identifying marker that would indicate their race. This is Tiahuanaco, and this is one of the most photographed and misunderstood creations on the plateau. In this creation, one can see all the heads and carvings of various races of mankind. Every people is represented, and yet there is one among them that does not look human at all. It is clearly alien. Much like we see today, we call these aliens the Greys. Only there is something different about the ancient alien that separates it from ours. Look closely. What is different? What is different is the fact that this alien has very big lips. This is First Father, his other identity. The identifying markers of all of these men are found in their naughty hair, their big lips, and their large noses. Although they were called aliens, they were also called the sons of God. Yet and still, many nations called them the great deceivers, and they secretly whispered against them because of their ways. They called them the great deceivers because when the native people saw them build, they saw a technology that they had never seen before. They saw what slices granite rock like butter and lifts hundreds of tons like a feather. And when they saw it, they were amazed. When they saw the airplanes and the flying vehicles, which could quarry rock 2,000 miles away and have them lifted, cut, and measured within minutes, they were astonished. However, when the pyramid building was complete and all of the construction processes ceased, these sons of God gave an order to the Egyptians and to all the indigenous people. And they said to these peoples and the writers who write, "Do not speak of how this was done. Write in your books that the pyramids were created using rope, logs, and wooden mallets. And as the writers of each nation began to write, they, like the Egyptians, balked at the sons of God and their instructions. They rumbled against them and did whisper behind them for the writing of a story that everyone knew was untrue. They said to these kings, "Why do we write this? It is not truth. And if we write these things, it will deceive the entire world." These who were new to this earth did not know that in the beginning of every new earth, knowledge of the previous earth and how it ended is forbidden. And in the ancient days, any word spoken of technology was punishable by death. Therefore, after every pyramid was completed, the sons of God would leave that nation, and they would leave that nation with one rule and one warning. They would say to every Egyptian and every native peoples on the earth for whom they have built, they would say, earth. And they were friendly with First Father, and then challenged him to a ball game. First Father accepted the challenge, but when First Father came to play the game, the devious lords captured him and beheaded First Father. The bodies or burial of First Father has never been found, and this Mayan tale would only be a tale. That is, until the mid-1900s, when the Mayan soil gave up the decapitated heads of First Father. This is First Father. These are the faces of our pyramid builders. These are the creators of our ancient text. And these are they who taught us everything about the stars, the cosmos, the planets, and calculation. And yes, these are aliens. They are clearly of African descent, and like all human beings that walk this earth, no matter our race, our color, or ethnic traditions, we can all trace our DNA, our beginnings, to a common ancestor, a father. For no matter what we call our father on this earth, our DNA tells us who our first father is. And he is African. The stonework and its megalithic construction clearly indicates a technical expertise that we do not possess today. The identity of the pyramid builders is the greatest secret of the ancient world. And yet, as unbelievable as this may be, its confirmation is found throughout all of Latin America, even to this day. Because the term Mayate, as derogatory as it may be, is only assigned to black men. These alien men purposely hid their race and their identity from mankind. They went to great lengths to cover their hair and their faces. And in every ancient writing, carving, and in every hieroglyphic, these men were always depicted with a face other than their own. A bird, a dog, a lion, a monkey, or an insect. Nevertheless, they would always leave us clues, clues that only the wise can see. These alien kings were looked down upon because of their appearance, because of their large noses, naughty hair, and big lips. Humans had a hard time accepting them as ruler. And yet in everything they built, they left an identifying marker that would indicate their race. This is Tiahuanaco, and this is one of the most photographed and misunderstood creations on the plateau. In this creation, one can see all the heads and carvings of various races of mankind. Every people is represented, and yet there is one among them that does not look human at all. It is clearly alien. Much like we see today, we call these aliens the Greys. Only there is something different about the ancient alien that separates it from ours. Look closely. What is different? What is different is the fact that this alien has very big lips. This is First Father, his other identity. The identifying markers of all of these men are found in their naughty hair, their big lips, and their large noses. Although they were called aliens, they were also called the sons of God. Yet and still, many nations called them the great deceivers, and they secretly whispered against them because of their ways. They called them the great deceivers because when the native people saw them build, they saw a technology that they had never seen before. They saw what slices granite rock like butter and lifts hundreds of tons like a feather. And when they saw it, they were amazed. When they saw the airplanes and the flying vehicles, which could quarry rock 2,000 miles away and have them lifted, cut, and measured within minutes, they were astonished. However, when the pyramid building was complete and all of the construction processes ceased, these sons of God gave an order to the Egyptians and to all the indigenous peoples. And they said to these peoples and the writers who write, "Do not speak of how this was done. Write in your books that the pyramids were created using rope, logs, and wooden mallets." And as the writers of each nation began to write, they, like the Egyptians, balked at the sons of God and their instructions. They rumbled against them and did whisper behind them for the writing of a story that everyone knew was untrue. They said to these kings, "Why do we write this? It is not truth. And if we write these things, it will deceive the entire world." These who were new to this earth did not know that in the beginning of every new earth, knowledge of the previous earth and how it ended is forbidden. And in the ancient days, any word spoken of technology was punishable by death. Therefore, after every pyramid was completed, the sons of God would leave that nation, and they would leave that nation with one rule and one warning. They would say to every Egyptian and every native peoples on the earth for whom they have built, they would say, "These works are not to be spoken of, and these things are never to be written. You shall obey these words, and you will make no graven image of our likeness or our features. You will make no graven image of anything that you have seen flying in the heavens. You will make no graven image of anything that is in our hands or that is in the heavens." These words may sound harsh to our world, but there is deep pain in each of them. For every nation that these kings built, they would leave an image or likeness of themselves and of their glory. And yet, in every nation and in every stone that carried their appearance, they found that people didn't like their appearance. Every stone creation that revealed their race was then vandalized or deliberately destroyed. Human beings have not changed, and no matter how great their works, and no matter how many gifts they have given to mankind, we always turn on them. We chisel out their names and put our own. We spit in their eyes and bludgeon their faces. For every image that carries their likeness, we despise it. We urinate on it. They build our nations and clothe our minds with knowledge, wisdom, faith, and God. And after they've done all this, we break their noses and we kill the greatest gift they ever gave us: a clean, healthy earth, a living earth. We know not the reason that we are all here, the reason we are all alive, and we know not that it is because of them. But a day comes on the horizon, a day for the end of earth. And in that day, we will curse our hatred for these men. Because in the end, when all is lost, war comes, and these men return. Orion returns, and they return to this earth for one purpose: to fight for us. The crop circles that are appearing all over the world are appearing with one message: war is coming. A war like we've never seen before, an extinction-level event. And we only have one way out: the stars. Each crop circle is leading us to understand where we come from and where we are going. And sadly, it tells us something else that is more powerful than anything you will ever understand. These crop circles are telling us the purpose of life, the purpose of the earth, and how it all ends. The crop circle is created to lead us to understanding our past and also to prepare. But there is one crop circle whose knowledge is so terrible that even while speaking, tears are falling from my eyes. This is the crop circle, and it appeared in the UK, and for a very important reason. And the reason is, its roots are European. This intricately designed crop circle carries a burden that is greater than the burden of any god. For to understand it brings one's heart to burst with tears. This is the Pyramid of Egypt, the Stargate, and yet it is full of a certain type of plant. The stargate and the plant are linked together. But for what reason? Why would a plant need to enter into a stargate? This crop circle also shows us the exact same thing. And if it looks to be alien, it is. At its center is a plant. And what this means is that we are looking for a relic or artifact that reflects a line of plants. It would be impossible to understand this message by a search of plants alone, and so it is the other peripheral objects which create and isolate this message. Surrounding this plant is what appears to be letters. Letters of a strange language, a language that is no longer spoken on this earth. As confusing as this may be, there is an answer, because only one relic of note fits this description, and it is called the Voynich manuscript. It is over 600 years old, and it is one of the greatest mysteries on this earth. It is a book of plants and stars, and it is written in a language that we cannot decipher, for it is a language that no longer exists. Linguists and epigraphers have been studying it for centuries, and with very little success. A European linguist named Stephen Bax has unlocked a small number of names in this botanical epic. Names like juniper, coriander, centaurea, and the word Taurus. These names are simply the names of plants, with the exception of Taurus. It is actually the name of a constellation. After 600 years of study, to this date, we have only locked the meaning of 10 words. The reason we are unable to unlock this codex is because we are thinking like a human. The book has stars and plants and drawings of mostly females in very odd situations and descriptions. After 600 years, this is where our knowledge runs dry. And sadly, none of this gets us any closer to understanding its message. That is, until now. Each page of this codex is written in a language that no longer exists. It has several drawings of plants and several drawings of stars. The codex cannot be unlocked because we are thinking like humans. We are human beings who are reading an alien message, and in order to understand an alien message, one must think like an alien. But remember, an alien language is the universal language. And the universal language is star constellations. To understand this book, all one has to know is the book is literally a Rosetta Stone, as each plant and each star and each drawing are all saying the exact same thing. It is truly nothing more than one message repeated in 3 different languages. The plants are botanical, a language. Star constellations, another language. And with pictogram or drawing as the last language. Although there are several pages of each, they are all saying the exact same thing, but in 3 different languages. A tree is botanical, and it is also human, and it is also a star constellation. A plant that is named Taurus is also written as Taurus, the constellation. A plant that resembles Venus flytrap is made to signify Venus, the planet. Each plant has a cognate in each of these languages, so where we lack knowledge in one of these languages, the other languages will help us understand it. It is equivalent to reading a story in English, and if we don't truly understand English, there is a picture to help us. If we don't understand the picture, there is a constellation of stars that is drawn. And even if we don't understand it, there is a diagram and a graph. All of this means in order to understand it, you only have to understand one of them. Moreover, if you have familiarity with all of these languages, then deciphering it is much easier. The reason the crop circles are leading us to this book is because this book contains the knowledge of the end. the end of mankind and the end of the earth. Although the religious believe the end of the world to be one of demons, Christs, horsemen, and angels, it is not. The reason we know it is not is because we have records dating back more than 60,000 years, and each of them telling us what happens at the end of the earth, and it ends the same every single time. When we unravel this mystery, we must then confront a horrible reality. The reality of what to do. These pictures show a tree, and it's not just any tree. It is a tree that we have ignored for over 1,000 years. It is the tree of life, the birthplace of human beings. How do we know that it is the tree of life? Look at its roots. They are strange, and they look like a human hand. That is because it is a human tree, and this tree and this Voynich manuscript are speaking the same language. However, what is different about this tree is the fact that the roots are carnivorous. It is a plant, a tree, that eats flesh. The book shows the birth of life and the purpose of life, and with great sadness, it also shows the end of it. We couldn't unlock its knowledge because our beliefs close the doors to our minds. We see these females with a crown upon their heads and near their heads. We see the cross within their grasp, and we think it is Christianity. It is a book of Jesus. And that is completely wrong. These images are actually star constellations, and this is the star constellation of Centaur. These are just women swimming in a strange pool, and these are women with their bodies inserted into a vine. Each of these things come together to tell you a story that you are not yet ready to hear. The women on every page are inserted into a vine or are swimming up a branch. Understanding this plant will lead us to the end of all knowledge, the knowledge of who we are. This plant is eerily similar to the Venus flytrap. And because this knowledge places our mind into the skies of Venus, we know it is merely a clue. There are plants all over the world, and they all rely on photosynthesis for nourishment. All but a few, because some plants, like man, survive by eating meat, flesh. However, what is beneath this plant is what should capture your eyes. This is the sign of Orion. Notice its golden star and its faded design, a design you should be very familiar with, because this is found on the heads of First Father. This is Orion, and although our world has altered these images, this Orion has a very revealing penis, a penis that is also erect. And although the erect penis is found all over the ancient world, it was never worshipped as the historians would have you believe. It was never the sign of a Christmas tree. And this tree was never a phallic symbol. No. The erect penis is far more important than that. Because an erect penis only means one thing: seeds. Out of the body of man comes a seed that is planted into the fertile soil of a woman planted on this earth to give life to a male seed. In the ancient world, when a young boy came of age, his fathers would tell him to go, plant your seed, sow your royal oats, and find a mate. When our world began, the God of this world gave mankind only one commandment, and that is to multiply. Have as many wives and make as many children as you can. Be fruitful, multiply, and replenish our new earth. The reason we always need to replenish our earth is found in the mystery of the crop circles themselves. Aliens leave these intricate and important messages in fields of crops for only one reason, and it is a reason that will haunt you forever. They leave all of this technological information in fields of grain and fields of wheat because these stalks of wheat represent humanity. And no matter how beautiful the design or intelligent the understanding, no matter how important the knowledge, eventually the owner of the land will come and harvest it. And once he has harvested his land, all the knowledge, all the beauty, all the design, all of its perfection will be gone. It is the reason that they choose crops. They represent human beings. And the harvesting of these crops also tell us the purpose of life. The Voynich manuscript and the crop circles are all telling us the same tale. In this manuscript, there are great trees and great bushels, and they are all full and ripe. But then notice this plant, and also notice its seeds. They are the seeds which create this large harvest of unusual trees. But then, look closer. One seed is black. The other seed is yellow. Another seed is brown, and the others are white. Children of earth, these are the seeds of mankind. It's us. Man is like a carnivorous plant that eats meat. These are our peoples and our races from all over the world, and they represent the creation of our tree of life. And sadly, the reason it is called the tree of life is because it represents the lives of every one of us. A tree that is planted in a garden and left to grow. And in 5,000 years, and it is ready for harvest. This is an ancient stela of the Anunnaki, and although the world teaches that they came here looking for gold, you will find it is another false narrative created by those who do not know. In this stela, you will find he who comes from the heavens. He has in his hands newly uprooted plants, and he is calling to the others and telling them to come. It is time for the harvest. The plants in his hands are 5, and they represent 5,000 years. And according to the Mayans, our world became ripe for harvest in 2012, when we reached our 5,000-year mark. It is an understanding that has been staring us in the face, and yet it is an ending that explains what happens to every nation in the end of the world. And it also explains why we have no knowledge of what happened on this earth before 5000 BC. Although we see ourselves as more than what we are, in the end, we are merely one thing: seeds. And the earth and its purpose is a garden. A self-cleaning, self-watering garden. It is the purpose of life, and it is the purpose of the earth. And it is why we are here, and we are here to do only one thing: to multiply. The Voynich manuscript also tells us something powerful, something that can actually change our fate and change our outcome. And the answer is here. This is a plant, and it is called by the Voynich manuscript Centaurea. And although our experts have dismissed it as nothing but a plant, remember, if a plant has the name that is similar to a star or planet, it means it represents a star or star constellations. Believe it or not, there is a star constellation that carries this name, and the constellation is known as Centaur. And in this constellation, there is a man and a horse, and he is ready for battle. The Centaur is not found in this book only once. It is ubiquitous. The Centaur is repeated over and over again, and in the 15th century, it is found everywhere. The Centaur and this constellation was so important to ancient man that they documented it in every way they could, because this constellation represents the end of the world, and an end that brings the harvest. The taking of human beings comes from this constellation, and they come to this earth for one purpose: to do battle with man. A war of dominance and a war of total conquest, a taking and a cleansing of the planet, and yet every nation that rises to fight them is decimated. In the end, when Centaur comes to this earth, we will need God, and we will need great powers to fight on our behalf, for we have not the technology to war with them alone. This knowledge is found all over the ancient world, and yet in our day we find this knowledge to be absurd and impossible. This unintelligent repose is an example of why we are always behind the other civilizations that came before us. There is something out there. There is something that waits for us, and the hope is that we find them before they find us. Every nation on this earth has its ears trained to the skies, listening for Centaur and any sign of their coming or sign of alien life. To this day, we have never heard any sign of alien life, and no sign even of their existence. And yet the only intelligent sign of life we have ever received was so massive and so powerful that it sent fear through everyone that heard it. This alien signal was so powerful, everyone who heard it said, "Wow!" This great signal came from a distant constellation in space, a constellation called Sagittarius. And what is frightening about this constellation is the fact that the ancients called it Centaur. There's something out there waiting for us, and it ain't no man.